Okay, so recently some news came out of MrBeast and his crew. In case you didn't know MrBeast, well, I don't know how to explain him very well, but he runs the largest channel on YouTube and makes a lot of crazy videos. I personally find him very entertaining, but as the largest YouTuber, he and his crew also get a lot of hate for seemingly no reason. And the same could be said to what's happened recently with his friend Chris, who recently on social media announced that they have been taking hormones. Now, in the Twitter bio, Chris says that they go by any pronoun, so I'll use they for now. Anyway, no surprise that a lot of bigoted people would start criticizing Chris in all corners of the internet. It just kind of goes to show how some people just can't seem to mind their own business. It's something that I never truly understood. Okay, sure, you see someone in the LGBT spectrum, why do you even have to care? A complete stranger to you has a different way of identifying themselves. Why do you have to care if they're not bothering you at all? Same idea here. Chris isn't hurting anyone else. Why the hell would you even care that they're on hormones? Just go back to reading your Bible, because that's apparently the only thing that gives your life any sort of meaning.
Now, first off, I just want to say real quick that gender dysphoria would no doubt be a tough thing to deal with, and I could for sure empathize with people who struggle with it, as it sounds like it would be something that's incredibly confusing and difficult.
No. Don't even pretend that you understand even in the slightest, because if you truly empathized, you wouldn't be making a video like this to begin with. People who don't have gender dysphoria, such as you and me, can't even come close to understanding how these people feel, what they have to deal with, and how hard they're fighting to feel like their true selves. Let these people speak for themselves, and then let's respect them for their decisions, alright? It's so stupid when people start off their bigotry with, "Oh, don't worry, I totally understand your situation. What I'm about to say truly comes from me being able to completely fit in your shoes, which is why your thinking is wrong, and not because I'm talking from an outsider's point of view."
We're told to look inside to discover who we truly are, and then expect, and maybe even demand, for others to validate that identity.
Yes, of course, we are human beings after all, and as social animals, how others treat and view ourselves is important. Whenever you do something regarding your own identity, it will inevitably be witnessed by other people. So as beautiful as it sounds to only care about how you view yourself, that's just not 100% the reality of it, since seeking acceptance from others is an essential part of being human. And one quick thing, these people aren't asking for others to validate their identity, they're asking them to accept their identity, which is a huge difference.
Of course, every culture's perception of identity comes with its own set of problems, and our current understanding is no exception. For example, this new understanding of identity makes sense as to why Chris can say that hormone replacement therapy, which refers to hormones that feminize the body, saved his and other people's lives. Now, when he says that these hormones are life-saving, he doesn't mean that the person will die from not physically looking like how they feel on the inside, but instead, he seems to be referring to the threat of contemplating self-elimination due to issues that stem from someone not physically appearing how they believe that they do on the inside.
Suicide thoughts are significantly higher in the trans community, but that stems from multiple factors which we won't go into today. The medical treatments we have, plus transition procedures, has gone a long way and definitely has saved many lives. But the procedure itself isn't the full story, and is only one step to bringing the feeling of acceptance. You're claiming that this, quote, self-elimination is because they don't appear the way they do on the inside, which is only part of the story. Think of a hypothetical situation in which you just magically turn into the opposite gender. So in your case, a female. You've been male your entire life and identify as one, so wouldn't that not feel right? Of course, you'd want to switch back, right? But what if after you switched back, people kept treating you like a female and calling you she/her? That of course wouldn't feel right still, so physical transitioning is part of the story, but getting people to accept you for who you are is a different story.
Now, this alone should raise some alarm bells about how we understand our value and our identity today. What's interesting is that today, we're told that you have to decide who you are for yourself and not to let anyone else tell you any different. And this is why Chris said on Twitter, "Carl, thanks for being an inspiration to me and so many other people to be happy and comfortable being yourself." But only today do we think that we're truly being ourselves when we change our appearance to match how we feel on the inside. This hasn't been true for any other generation in the past, and to make matters worse, it's society that makes us think that our identities are tied to our sexual expression.
Huh? Of course this positive message hasn't been around in older times, because surprise surprise, society is always progressing. And as a result, the way we view other people and ourselves progress. That's like saying, her cancer treatments haven't been around in previous centuries, and somehow thinking that that claims that cancer hasn't existed until now. Well, similarly, the idea of wanting your outer appearance to match how you feel on the inside isn't a new thing. It's always been around, but it's only in recent times that more and more people are fighting for that acceptance.
In the past, our identities were tied to our family or social occupation, or even our capacity for violence during warrior times. Today, since the idea that we can look inside to know ourselves is an idea that comes from our current society, then in this way, we're still relying on our society to tell us who we are, and we're no more free to determine who we are for ourselves than we were in the past.
Well, no, in the past when things like work occupation and social status determined our reputation, our image, that's what other people thought about ourselves and not necessarily what we thought about ourselves in our identities. Sure, there are people who determine their own self-worth from the way that other people judge themselves, but again, that's different. I mean, heck, even now something like job occupation makes up a huge part of your reputation, specifically regarding how other people view you. But you aren't going to feel like your identity is being threatened if you don't have a good occupation. Your social standing is different than your identity. The things you named, those are how people would view your social status, which a lot of people admittedly find to be important. But those bend to society's rules because they are society's standards. They're your social positions. But how you identify yourself to be, that's a personal matter and therefore wasn't defined for you by society. Hell, the fact that half the people in this country don't support the LGBTQ community is enough to tell you that the idea of wanting to conform to your identity isn't due to changes in the social aspect, but rather it's something that has always existed, been bottled up, and only recently have we been more open to talking about it.
If our identity truly came from us and us alone, then it wouldn't even matter how we physically appeared in public or on social media. But in reality, we're still seeking validation from others and letting them affirm or deny who we are, which is why we get so triggered when others don't validate our personal expressions of identity.
No, that's absolutely the wrong way to think about it. You make it sound like these people are dependent on other people, asking others to make an effort to validate their social identities, when that's not the correct way of looking at it. There's a reason it's called fighting for LGBTQ rights rather than fighting for LGBTQ privileges. All they want is for others to stop bullying, harassing, or taking away their human rights due to the fact that they're transgender. They're not asking for special treatment, they're asking for equal treatment. They're not asking for validation, they're asking for acceptance. So as a result, their expression of their inner identities is not a result of social change, nor is it a way to fit with society's point of view. It's a way for they themselves to feel happy about themselves and along the way asking other people to not bully or harass them for it. And as normal human beings, I think we can at least do that much.
Now, the fact that Chris acknowledges that not having gender-affirming surgery can lead a person to a loss of desire to live shows us the danger in needing external validation for our identity. But the only problem is we're social beings and everyone is seeking external validation for who they believe that they are. And contrary to what we say in our culture today, you can't get your validation from yourself and only yourself, because in order for you to have a decent level of self-esteem, you have to believe that you're held in high esteem by people that you hold in high esteem.
The thing is, if there are any social changes that influenced people's abilities to publicly express themselves, the only thing that would have changed is the fact that we've been better at recognizing this issue. Trans people always existed, but whether or not they were accepted for it has changed. And while society is moving towards a positive direction, there are still bigots in the world that can't seem to mind their own business. Now, for the sake of argument, let's just say that transgenderism is indeed truly only a product of society's changing values. In that case, so what? We should still treat them as normal human beings, and why not allow people to feel better in conformation to society anyway? In this hypothetical situation, your self-image coming from society is inevitable, and while other people are also seeking this societal acceptance, why not let people feel accepted, regardless of where that feeling of acceptance came from, especially when it requires little to no effort on your end?
This is why, as a Christian, I find it helpful to get your identity from who God says that you are. Now, this may sound wild, but really think about it. What if you could know that you were infinitely valued by an infinite God, even if you didn't feel like you were valuable to anyone else? And you might be thinking that there's no way that an infinite God could ever accept you because he knows the absolute worst parts of you better than you even know them yourself.
Well, guess what? Not everyone is Christian, and not everyone can feel happy being accepted by a non-existent God. I'm sorry, that's just not how it works. If that's what you use to cope with your problems, perfectly fine, but don't expect everyone else to do the same thing.
But what if, no matter who you are, no matter what you've done, you could be seen by God as if you've lived a life as perfect as the life that Jesus lived?
Look, if the God of the Bible really existed, I don't know why he would even invent gender dysphoria. Why would he even make it so people felt like their body didn't properly represent their identity? That's just stupid on so many levels, and honestly, I don't even want to get into that today. So yeah, that'll be the end of the video today. The reason I wanted to talk about this a bit today is because I saw the news about Chris announcing their hormone therapy and everyone was talking about it. In all seriousness, congrats to Chris for having the bravery to take that step forward. It definitely isn't easy if you're part of the biggest channel on YouTube, and I think Chris should be celebrated for that. Thanks for watching, and thank you to Fireshard, Alan Morton, Miss Fixit, and Rick Klen for supporting this video. I'll see you all in the next one.